the shit?
Tried to warn you.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. This kind of touches on the economics of comics, but here's a question. And by the way, a lot of you have written in some super long emails, so I'll definitely get to those. But there's ones that are, in fairness, really well thought out, really long messages. But not as easy to read while I'm stuck in traffic. And somebody asked, "Hey, wait a minute, is he reading mails while he's actively driving down the road?" No, I tend to be at a stop when I read the mails, but there you go. So yeah, safety first. Sure, why not? Anyway, here's this mail. It says, "Hello, Perch. I've been a long time viewer of your show, and I was wondering if advice given on the show would actually help Marvel and DC compete with YA and manga. I agree with your thoughts about digital strategy, but I wonder if trying to make the best comics possible would actually help them in the long run. You recommend them to start paying people better, take care of their employees, don't destroy stories as meaningless events, etc." To back into those a little bit, just the reason why I think they should pay people better is to get better talent. So I guess the complete way to say it is you should offer more money to write comics and to draw comics, and then you should jealously guard that money and only give it to people who deserve it. Okay, so don't just give raises across the board. Once you've done that, gotten some good people, you're paying them well, but you've got some better talent in the mix. Take care of them, meaning figure out a way, and lots of companies have now where you can offer freelancers some level of health insurance. That's a good idea. And then I also think as long as you're digging into your pockets and you've made some extra money, have more respect for the legends along the way, the people who worked for your company for decades, and you now no longer will give them the time of day, and you should try and take care of them at the very least, even if it's not financial. Hey, it'd be a nice signal boost. Marvel, DC, signal boost Peter David's GoFundMe. Try and help him raise some more money. Why not? Help him out. It would go a long way. So anyway, that's kind of what I mean when I say the more money aspect and everything else. But let's go back to the mail. It says, "However, I'm not sure if the increased sales would be enough to compensate for the increased costs of operation. After all, collectors will keep buying mediocre titles, and even though the job doesn't pay well from time to time, talented authors do come around and create comics that are well received. For example, Tom King's Vision, or the first Miss Marvel run by G. Willow Wilson. Image, for example, published some of the most critically acclaimed recent stories in comics: The Walking Dead, Kick-Ass, Saga, Jupiter's Legacy, Chew, and Invincible. And one of those doesn't quite fit the others, but anyway, they're all good, all good. Yet their market share is nowhere close to that of DC and Marvel. Well, yeah, there's a big reason for that. I mean, keep in mind, Marvel and DC's market share is built heavily on having a big bank behind them, and the fact that your business is as much licensing as comics, if not much more. So Image doesn't have quite that, not even quite, doesn't have that capability. And keep in mind that when you have like a Walking Dead success, that tends to benefit Robert Kirkman more than Image, and the company was built intentionally that way. That was the entire point of creators' rights and kind of what they were doing. So that's why you have that's very very different kind of business structure by intent for where all was set up. But let's finish this mail and then kind of get to kind of your thesis here. Perhaps the best way to run a superhero house is to hire a bunch of nobodies, pay them next to nothing, and flood the market with endless X-Men and Batman books, and then just cash in on the nostalgia and brand power. Well, that is the strategy they're using, yeah, I think, but it's a self-destructive strategy. We are seeing those lines of comics have less drawing power, meaning they're getting weaker as time goes by. If you're one of those people who's like, but wait a minute, the comic industry is doing better than ever. There's go back a few days and there's videos on that. Here, if you just look at Batman and the ability to draw money from Batman in comic book form, it's declining. And I think we're past the point where you could blame that on just people don't like paper or kids like video games more. Uh, and you could start to tie in things like, hey, this recent Gotham Knights game and some of the merchandising of Batman is starting to weaken. It's still an incredibly powerful brand. However, it is no longer a slam dunk than it was, say, 10 years ago. If you think about where Batman the property was when Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, by the way, so I did a New 52 video, and some people took me to task for why I didn't praise, Snyder and Capullo as some of the new things that came out of the New 52. Well, yes, that book was absolutely, I think, the centerpiece of the New 52 in terms of sales and in terms of kind of the power. But Snyder existed prior. I mean, he was writing comics before the New 52. I think the New 52 absolutely gave him a huge boost to his career. But it wasn't exactly the point I was making. That anyway, it's fine. There are a crap load of birds everywhere. By the way, I'm looking out and there's so many birds on lines. I don't know. They're all right here. It's like a Alfred Hitchcock movie here for a second. Anyway, um, I think that we're seeing brand weakening. If you think about the like I said, the Batman during the New 52, it was a lot stronger than it is today. And some of this is natural. Iron Man's another one. Iron Man as a licensable property was super strong when the movies were coming out. Iron Man 1 and 2, and Robert Downey Jr.'s that character. He's showing up the Avengers. A very, very strong character. Its character is weaker now. It character does not get as much money from a licensing perspective as he did 10 years ago. Now, you can't blame that on the comics. I mean, a lot of that's just, again, the character was popular. It had a kind of cyclical cycle, and now it's down. But the comics are not benefiting either. So everything is down. Iron Man as a comic is not selling as strong or as well since, for a couple runs now. The Dan Slott, Christopher Cantwell runs, and I'm quite convinced the Jerry Duggan run will have similar problems, especially since it's starting out telling the exact same pitch that we've heard multiple times before. But you can't just kind of go back to the well and just hire nobodies and print these comics out unless you're going to treat them truly as brochures. And in that instance, they're only going to be as strong as the movie. So when the movies are out, they'll be strong, and as soon as the movies start to wade, the comics are going to vanish off the face of the earth. Collectors will be slow to leave. You're right, they will keep buying, but they will eventually leave. It's far better, I guess, as a business strategy, no matter what that business is, entertainment, comics, software, plumbing. It's rarely a good strategy to swing for mediocre. It's always better to try to do the best you can, to try and put out the incredible product. Even if you think about a place like Arby's, okay, as much as I give Arby's shit, the people at Arby's they don't sit in kind of their office and think, how can we poison and torture our visitors today? Even though that is the result of what they do, they're not. Arby's is not in the business of just churning out shit food. Nobody sits inside Arby's HQ and goes, how can we just put out the lowest quality garbage and and pay as little as possible and just not clean the restaurants, just have it look like complete absolute garbage, and then that will give us a high profit margin. They don't do that. It would be a failing business strategy if they did. Same thing with any fast food place. McDonald's does have, as part of the strategy, we will put out high quality food at a reasonable price, and we'll have clean restaurants and kind of all the rest. That's McDonald's, the model of McDonald's. If you go into McDonald's, you're clearly not eating high class steak. But if they're not going to go out and just say just do it the cheapest way possible and count the cash. It would fail. If they did run that strategy, it would it would not be successful. So I think that in comics, it's it's a bad idea if you go down the path of how can we do this as cheaply as possible. How can we, just cash in? Yes, if they pivoted to, to trying to, hire better people and all the rest, yes, their profit margin would drop. But I believe that would be in the short term. They would absolutely catch up. It would, by putting out kind of better stories, they'd have more things to sell in kind of the aftermarket. It would be a better strategy for them if they continue down the path of like, how can we get this made in the cheapest humanly way possible. I think eventually people will catch on to the con and then just stop buying the book. And arguably, I think at times we're closer to that than people want to believe. Anyway, thank you very much for the question, though. I think it's a good one, and it's one that is worth considering. Thanks for listening.